Hey everyone, and welcome back to Joys of Code. So glad you could join me today. All right, today we're tackling something that's, well, it's not really about writing brand new code. It's more about a mindset that honestly separates the good data pros from the truly great ones. We're talking about continuous improvement, and this is the core idea that your job is not done when you ship. In fact, that's often when the real important work is just getting started. So let me throw a question at you. Picture this. You've been grinding for weeks, maybe even months. The project is finally live. The data's flowing. Is your job finished? I mean, it's so tempting to just say yes, done, and move on to the next shiny new project, right? But what we're going to explore today is why the real value, the game-changing stuff, actually happens after that big launch. All right, to make this real, let's jump into a story. Let's meet Hungry Now. It's a food delivery app. You know the type. And their data engineering team has just pulled off a huge launch, a brand new streaming data pipeline. Its whole job is to monitor how quickly restaurants are getting orders out the door, all in real time. Super critical stuff.
And right out of the gate, everything is looking perfect. I mean, the data's crunching, the system is flagging slow restaurants just like it's supposed to, alerts are firing off, boom. By all accounts, the launch is a massive success. The team's celebrating, popping the confetti, and they totally deserve it. But you know how this goes. As the dust settles and the initial high fives wear off, as days turn into weeks, that shiny success starts to get a little tarnished. The system is now facing the chaos of the real world, and some cracks are definitely starting to show. That feeling of being done? Yeah, turns out it wasn't quite the end of the story.
So, where's the first sign of trouble? It comes from the ops team. They start getting complaints. The data they're looking at, it's stale. Yeah, the alerts are firing, but the information is so old by the time they see it that it's not really helpful anymore. It's like getting a warning about a traffic jam you already drove through an hour ago.
And it's not just an external problem. Inside the team, things are getting messy too. A new engineer joins, ready to contribute, but getting them up to speed is, well, it's a total nightmare. The documentation is all over the place, if it even exists. It's just a constant barrage of, hey, how does this work again? And that's slowing everybody down. And the alerts? Oh man, the alerts. When something actually breaks, what does the on-call engineer get? Not some nice, clean notification. Nope. They get a giant, scary wall of error logs. It's impossible to tell what's a real 5-alarm fire and what's just, noise. It's pure chaos.
And just to add insult to injury, the finance department comes knocking. They're pointing at a spreadsheet, and the compute costs for this always-on system are just creeping up month after month after month. The team built it to work, sure, but nobody really thought about building it to be efficient.
So, you've got stale data, confused new hires, useless alerts, and a rising bill. The engineer at Hungry Now has this light bulb moment. They realize that playing whack-a-mole, just fixing one bug at a time, is never going to solve the root problem. They need a whole new approach. They need to stop just firefighting and start learning. They need a system, an improvement loop.
And that is the heart of what we're talking about today, continuous improvement. This isn't just some buzzword, it's a deliberate practice. It means you're not just sitting around waiting for things to break. You're actively, proactively learning from everything you build. You capture the good stuff, you learn from the bad stuff, and you use all of it to make your systems better and faster and cleaner over time.
Okay, so what does this loop actually look like? It's really simple, but it's incredibly powerful. First, you observe, right? You can't fix what you can't see, so you monitor everything. Latency, failures, costs, you name it. Then you reflect. This is huge. You get your stakeholders in a room and you ask why. Why did this break? Why is this slow? Next, and this is crucial, you capture what you've learned. You write it down. You turn it into patterns, or maybe even anti-patterns, things to avoid. Then you can improve. And notice it says small, safe changes. We're not talking about rewriting everything. After the change, you have to measure. Did it actually work? You need the numbers to prove it. And finally, you socialize it. You share the templates, the docs, the lessons learned, so the entire team gets smarter. See? It's a cycle. It's not a one-and-done fix.
All right, so that's the theory. But let's get back to our friends at Hungry Now and see how this actually played out in the real world. Because applying this simple loop didn't just make things a little better. It took their good enough pipeline and made it genuinely great. And they've got the numbers to prove it. Okay, problem number one, the stale data. They observed the high latency, and they decided that the old 2-hour batch process just wasn't cutting it. So they improved it, moving to a much faster 15-minute micro-batching system. Now the data is basically always fresh. And the result of that one technical change? Look at this, a 75% drop in the lag time for customer complaints. Think about what that means for the business. The operations team can now jump on a problem almost as it happens instead of hours later. That's a direct, massive improvement to the customer's experience. That's huge.
All right, next up, that terrifying wall of error logs. They completely overhauled their alerting. They set up a proper Grafana dashboard so they could actually see what was happening. And they configured targeted alerts through Slack and PagerDuty for the stuff that really mattered. They went from being totally reactive to being proactive. And what was the result? Just look at this bar chart. Their mean time to recover, that's how long it takes to fix something when it breaks, plummeted from an average of 90 minutes, which feels like an eternity when you're on call, down to just 18 minutes. For any engineer watching this, you know how life-changing that is. That is a massive reduction in stress.
Okay, what about the slow onboarding and the constant questions? They tackled that by getting rid of the copy-paste madness. They took their best practices, their best code, and captured it in shared libraries. And even better, they built out project templates with Cookie Cutter, so now spinning up a new best practice pipeline is basically automatic.
And the ripple effect of this was just incredible. They measured about a 40% savings in build time for any new pipeline they had to create. Think about that for a second. This wasn't just fixing the old system. It was an investment that pays off every single time they start a new project. That's how you scale knowledge. And last but not least, that creeping compute bill. By actually observing their usage patterns, they realized their clusters were way oversized for most of the day. So they started right-sizing them and scheduling the big, non-urgent jobs to run in the middle of the night when costs are lower. And boom, a very real 28% cut from their monthly bill. Finance was happy, for sure.
So you see the pattern here, right? This isn't about some genius engineer swooping in for one-time heroic fix. The real win here is building better habits. It's about creating a system for learning that makes sure these improvements actually stick around and compound over time.
So how do you actually do this? Well, you use real, tangible tools. You run a post-implementation review or a PIR after every big launch to talk about what went well and what didn't. When something breaks, you hold a blame-free retrospective to find the root cause. To stop making the same decisions over and over, you write them down in what are called architecture decision records, or ADRs. You build those reusable assets, the templates and libraries we talked about. You create playbooks so people know what to do in a crisis. And you share all of this knowledge in things like lunch and learns. You're basically making learning an official part of your team's workflow.
And all of this really comes down to this one powerful idea. It's a quote that just nails it. A good data engineer not only builds robust pipelines, but also robust ways of learning. Your real value isn't just in the code you write. It's in your ability to make the next thing you build even better. You're not just building a data engine, you're building a learning engine.
And that brings me to all of you watching. Because a culture of learning is a community effort. It's all about sharing what we've been through. So I want to ask you, what's the single biggest lesson learned you've ever captured from a project you worked on? What's that one thing that completely changed how you or your team does things now? I genuinely want to know. Drop your story in the comments below. Let's learn from each other.
Hey, if you got some value out of this explainer and it got you thinking, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And of course, make sure you're subscribed to Joys of Code and have those notifications turned on so you don't miss the next one. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today.